Good morning, everyone. Hi, it is Stacy. We're loving my veteran. This is Walking in My Shoes this morning. This is part two of our series. Why does it always have to be about the veteran? What about me? And when do I matter? Um, we always tend to talk about the veteran, and it is important that we talk about the veteran, but there are two people in these relationships, and we have to matter too. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Is in a continuing thing is we have feelings too. And when we have feelings, we need to address them and we need to be able to work through them and not feel like they are dismissed. And I think all too often we get to the point we feel like our feelings are dismissed. So grab your coffee. We're going to get started. You know I have to have coffee in the morning. Super important. So, while yesterday was way more triggering than today will probably be, I do have to put it out there that some of the stuff we talk about in this series could possibly be a trigger. Good morning, Kathy. Could possibly be a trigger, and we just need to be aware of that. You know, I've always said, and I still say, when we got with our veteran, whether they were active duty at the time or whether it was after the point, good morning, Vanessa, or whether it was afterwards, we've said that there's a reason we fell in love with them. We didn't take out an answer, an ad that says, I want some angry person who's going to have mood swings, going to talk down to me, going to get frustrated, going to shut down. We didn't respond to an ad that that's who we wanted to date in life. That's who we wanted to spend our life with. So when we get in these spaces, and we get in these spaces and our lives get overwhelming, and they do, and things get out of control, and again, they do, our feelings get very hurt. And it is usually at that point that people say, my veteran's gaslighting me. All they're doing is, and I hate that word. I hate that word. I don't even know who made that word up. But all they do is put me down. They always talk about the bad. They always talk about the angry. They always talk about everything I'm failing. They always make it all about me. It's never about them. And that is true usually when we get in the moment. But that is true of anybody when we get in the moment. I don't know if it was a mistake early on, but if it was life changing early on in our relationship, I was tired of every time we got into an argument that I was made to feel stupid. I was made to feel like I didn't matter. How it all got very twisted in my mind and all became about me. Like everything he said was directed to me and every issue we had was my fault. And I did something. I would never played it back. I deleted it right shortly afterwards. But I wanted to record this argument. And so we were sitting there and I could tell things were going down a road they didn't need to go down. I hit the record button on my phone and I laid the camera face down. And my plan was I was going to play it back for him so he could hear how he spoke to me. When the argument was over, or at some point during it, the recording shut off, it didn't matter. I went back and listened to like the first 10 minutes. Because I was going to play it and be like, listen to what you say to me, right? Because I was in my feelings. I was hurt. I felt like I was always hurt. I felt like I was always dumb. I felt like I was always the cause. I felt like I was always to blame. Well, the audio portion of that video was eye-opening. Because it seemed that he wasn't the only one dishing it out, I was too. He wasn't the only one dishing it out, I was too. And what I had to sit back and realize, and I deleted it, I never even played it for him, what I had to sit back and realize was we all get caught up in our feelings. We get very caught up in our feelings. It is really hard when we walk around on eggshells and we tiptoe around because we don't want to trigger our veteran, because we've heard things like, "You're my trigger," "You trigger me." We've heard it. Or, "You don't ever do anything right." Because, I don't understand how they can't remember from 1 minute to the next what they have on their body. But by God, they can remember something I said 7 weeks, 4 days, 3 hours, and 26 seconds ago. And he can remember that. And he'll tell me that. Like on this day, you said this at this time. Do you remember what you said? The hell, I barely remember what I put in my coffee in the morning. No, I don't remember what I said then. And so when we were in these arguments and it was like, "Don't you remember what you said?" Well, now what, are you lying to me? So what happened to my self-esteem as it went along? I felt dumb. I began to question my own sanity. I began to wonder, hey, am I really the cause of all this? Am I really the one who's the blame for every bit of this? Because it was so easy. Like the words just came out and I just sucked them in. And it was different for me. It was strange for me because I have never been a person, or at least I didn't think I was a person who could just suck everything in. I thought I was a pretty strong person. I thought I had my crap together. I thought that everybody who said something to me didn't matter. And then when I started going through this and really looking at this, I realized when I finally sat back and started to look at where things were, it wasn't just my veteran who made me feel dumb. It was everybody. I felt like I didn't add up in a lot of ways to a lot of people. And that was kind of the beginning of when I realized that my feelings do matter. My feelings were important. But it's always about the veteran. Don't do anything to trigger them. Understand that PTSD, with it comes depression. And you've got to be careful not to make their depression worse. Read it. Go to the VA website. It's right there. Go to any mental health website. It's right there. PTSD is caused by triggering of events. Be careful you don't remind them of the event. Okay? I'm trying not to. I'm really trying not to remind them of the event. But they don't share the intimate details of the event, nor do I want them to, nor should anybody want them to, nor should anybody expect them to. So there's a lot of times I said stuff that I didn't really realize was a trigger. And I was walking on these weird ass eggshells all the time because I wanted to tiptoe around because I didn't want to upset him. Because I took it all very personally. And it's been that way. It was that way, not been, in the past. It was that way for a lot. We didn't celebrate holidays. I love holidays. We didn't celebrate holidays. Why? Because they caused a negative effect in the way he thought about them. So as a result, I sucked it up. And what happened is he wasn't celebrating because it just bothered him. Right? It was bothering him. And I knew it. I knew he was going to have a hard time with it. So I just said in my own little head, well, you know what? We just won't have a holiday then. And as a result, what happened to me was I became angry. My feeling didn't matter. Holidays were important to me. They meant something to me. And I shoved them on the back burner because God forbid I would trigger him. Y'all remember those days? Some of you are probably still living in those days. How many times have you gotten angry over something? May not have anything to do with him at all. And you've gotten off the phone or you're frustrated with something and your body language just changes and you slam something down or you go whatever and you storm out or you walk out of the room and they're like, well, here I go again. What did I do to make you that way? It's not all about you. Or somebody hurt my feelings, or if I was sad about something or angry about something, it was dismissed. And it was, you just need to suck it up. Oh, I'm a big girl. I made it 50 some years, okay? I do know how to suck it up. But occasionally, I would think that the person that I am spending my life with would want to be comforting to me. Hell, that went out the window. At least in the beginning. He didn't know how to do that. I didn't know what the hell I wanted from him. And you damn sure don't want to go be comforted by somebody who says, suck it up, buttercup. Or if you think that's bad, you should have lived in my life. Or that's what we want to hear, right? So we get very caught up in our feelings. We get very caught up in our feelings. And as a result, we get angry and we get frustrated and we get resentful. So what happens in our world is our feelings get magnified. But what are we supposed to do about it? What are we supposed to do about it? You want to read the guidebook? The guidebook says, don't trigger them. They're going to be depressed. They may have anger. You need to mitigate the anger. Don't do things that remind them of the event. Don't do things that remind them. Hell, I don't even know what the event was. How the hell am I not going to do things that remind them of the event? And so now we have all this extra added pressure, right? Like we personally feel responsible for the way they feel. And as a result, we feel lower, less worthy, incapable, not heard, dismissed, especially when they have to process something. Right? Because it's never a good time to talk to a veteran. I don't know about y'all, but have you ever noticed that? When you want to have a conversation, they're like, now's not a good time. And you're like, okay, well, when the hell is a good time? And in the meantime, you feel dismissed. Because I don't know about y'all, but I could be doing something. And all of a sudden, he has something he wants to say. And by God, we're going to hear it. Then. Not in a minute. Not when I can handle it. We're going to hear it right then. Because that's when he is ready to talk about it. Or at least that's what I used to think. It was all about him. It never became about me. It never was my feelings. That's the world I managed to take my brain into. I took my brain down that path. I wanted to know about my feelings and when they mattered. And I felt less worthy, really dumb, inadequate, unloved, and almost like a burden. You know, we hear that our veterans say it a lot. I'm never going to make you happy. I'm the problem here. I'm going to leave. I felt like I was the problem. And the reality was part of me was, but so was him. We both were. We had to get to where we could see that. We had to get to where we could see that we were both part of the problem so we could both create a solution. And it was hard. Again, nothing about this is easy, by the way, because you're going against every norm in the world. You're going against that norm that goes on in the world. So it's hard. It's not easy. It's not easy to walk that journey when you are feeling belittled or dumb or stupid. And there were some things that I really had to learn along the way. One, my feelings were mine to own. That was really hard. That was really hard. I own my own feelings. Nobody else owns them. They're mine. The second one was everything was not my fault, just like everything was not his fault. That was really hard. Because taking accountability for what you're bringing to the game is hard. And for them to take accountability for what they bring to the table is hard. Because we live in a world of deflection. Oh, it's not my fault. It's their fault. Oh, no, it's their fault. And you play this little game. If you've got siblings, you all played that game when you were little. If you got siblings, when something bad happened and your parents came in and said, who the heck did this? Wasn't me, it was him. I gave birth to 2 children and we ended up having 3. There was David, Seth, and I don't know. I don't know was the blame for everything that went on in our house. So when I was raising my kids and I go and I'm like, who the heck did this? I don't know. I don't know was my 3rd child. But I did fix that pretty quick. One year, I bought Christmas presents, and I wrapped them all, and they were all to I don't know. The kids were not happy, but it was great. They had to learn accountability. The next thing that we don't understand, and this is part of it, is whenever we feel threatened, anybody feels threatened or feels backed into a corner, we are going to come out fighting. Okay? And I'm not necessarily talking about physically fighting sometimes. I'm talking about we're going to fight back. We're going to use our words, we're going to use our actions, or we're going to shut down. It's fight or flight. Everybody has it. Every animal has it. It's a natural instinct. But we have to get through that. And so when we're in a space and we're already wrapped up because we feel stupid, and we go and say something because we don't say to them, it was your action, or the conversation we had made me feel dumb. We go in, we say, you made me feel dumb. Do you know how many veterans I hear say, and I've heard spouses come back and say this too, that the veteran says their spouse is the trigger? Spouse isn't the trigger. The actions may be, but the spouse is not the trigger. So here you are, you're in a relationship with somebody that you love and you adore, and you're trying to get through it, and you're trying to work through it, and you're trying to fix them, because that doesn't work either, by the way, but you're trying to fix them, and now all of a sudden, they come to you and they say, you know what the problem is? You're the problem because you're my trigger. I heard it. I heard it. We've all heard it. But we had to differentiate between me being the trigger and me yelling being the trigger. We had to differentiate between me being the trigger and me wanting to live in a world of instant satisfaction. Like, I wanted an answer right then. Okay? I was in this world. We talked about it this morning. Some of these people are like in the spoon feed me world. I was buying into that, right? Like if I asked a question or I said how I felt, I expected an answer right then, and I wanted it resolved right then. And more importantly was I wanted it resolved the way I wanted it resolved right then. And anything less wasn't good enough. And I was dumb. I was stupid. I felt like I didn't matter and I had no value or worth. I took it all personally. I took it all personally. Now, I'm not saying this is all about you changing, because it's not. It's about a lot of things that have to change in order for things to get better. But I will tell you this. When we start seeing it this way, when our veterans understand, play the video for them, by the way, y'all. I had a veteran email me last night. It said, I love what you're saying. Because you said to me things that she couldn't when we were arguing because I wouldn't listen. It's a combination of things. We have to understand that people aren't triggers, actions are triggers. We have to learn not to take everything so personally. And I'm telling you, good gracious.
You are Southern.
I'm Southern today. I'm telling you right now, if you are taking what your veteran says personally, if you sit back and think and look, let's do a little what our veteran does. Let's sit back and let's process things. You are going to find that you take almost what everybody else says personally. So it's not just your veteran, it's the way we've learned to process things. So not just your veterans that's going to make you feel this way. Everybody is, but because you live with them and because it tends to be more magnified because that's just the way it is with them, you take it personally. I'm telling you, when I learned to change this whole mindset and the way I think and the way I act and the way I do things and the way I don't take things personally, I've improved relationships with my mom. I've improved relationships with my kids. And I've damn sure improved it with my veteran. Because you can't take everything personally. And that was hard. Then we talk about that lovely little word, gaslighting. Oh my God, I hate that word. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. My least favorite word, probably, other than the C word. We sit here and we sit back and say, my veteran gaslights. He tells me everything I do wrong, how dumb I am, how stupid I am, how this I am, how it's all my fault. I want you, if you feel that way, to take a deep breath and a step back and ponder, reflect, think about, have you done it to them? And what you're going to say is, I can already hear it, no, I have not done it to them. I'm telling them that they need help. I'm trying to fix them and help them. They need help and they need this and they need that. And you just told them they weren't good enough all the way across the board. You told them they weren't good enough. You told them they didn't matter. So then they come back. Because we all gonna fight back. Till we learn not to take things personally. And the hard part is, especially if you're new here, the hard part is that you wake up and you're like, holy crap, I need to implement all this stuff. It works. It does work. My biggest word of advice is don't implement it all at one time. And then we get impatient And we become the vomiting dumping ground because we found all this great stuff that works. And we just want to, like, you need to buy into this, and you need to do this, and you need to do that. You're still not changing things. And so when all of a sudden you start to implement these things, and you're not implementing them one at a time, you're implementing them 10 at a time, and your veteran doesn't respond the way you want, now our feelings are hurt. Why? Because we put in the work, we tried. Sometimes trying is patience. Sometimes trying is baby steps. And it's that way with anybody. It's that way with anybody. See, here's the thing. The words they say are very hurtful. I've cried a million tears. I've been in the room and I've cried and I said, what am I doing here? Is my life always going to be this way? What have I done? Where's the person I fell in love with? It made me question my own sanity. It made me question who I was. It made me wonder if everybody else was right. And people who didn't even know him, just like people who talk about veterans with PTSD and TBIs in general, were they right? I was there. And there's still days he hurts my feelings, and there's still days I cry. I just don't do it as often. And then I sit back and I realize, oh, hang on a minute. And then we talk about it now. But you can't talk about it when it charges both of you. There were a lot of skills we had to learn along the way. The first and most important skill you can learn is your value and your worth. You have value and you have worth. And you are not defined by other people's opinion of you. You have value, you have worth, and you are not defined by other people's opinion of you. Now, if you write that down and you look at it every day and you tell yourself, because all of us, the voice we all listen to more than any other voice is the voice inside our own head. We have this voice inside of our head, and it comes from all the crap from the outside world, comes into our heads, and it tells us that we're not good enough, that we don't matter, that we're never going to be good enough, that we're always going to be dumb, we're always going to be stupid, we're always going to be the blame. You got to drown that outside noise out, and you've got to know and act upon the fact that you have value, you have worth, and you are good enough. And that's really hard. It's really hard when you have all these outside influences that telling you you don't matter. I mean, look at society as a whole. We went through a long period of time where supermodels were super, super skinny. And we had all of these girls, young girls, suffering from anorexia because they thought that 1 pound made them not good enough. We all tried to live up to somebody else's version of good enough. My own Nana did it to me when I was a new mom. Yeah, she believed in a schedule, and I'm not dismissing that because it worked for my kids. But it had to be her version of the schedule. And my Nana would ride by my house at 10 o'clock in the morning. And if David's shoelaces weren't washed out, washed as she called them, and hanging on the clothesline, I wasn't a good mama. I wasn't a good mama if I didn't have the shoelaces hung out on the clothesline. And I'm thinking, the bottles are clean, and I had a chance to take a shower, and the baby's asleep. That is a victory score. I don't give two craps about the shoelaces. But we tried to live by other people's versions of what's good enough. So my little hack to the shoelaces was I always kept a clean pair of shoelaces. And first thing in the morning after I fed David bright and early, I walked out and I hung them damn things on the clothesline so when my Nana rode by air day, she could see the clean shoelaces. And then she thought I was a good mama. Now that's pretty sad. It's the outside voices you have to get rid of. We hear it all the time. And you just don't have to know your self-worth. You have to believe in your self-worth. And when you know your self-worth, and when you believe in your self-worth, and when you know that you have value, and when you believe that you have value, let me tell you what happens. You change. You change. And when you believe you're valuable, others believe that you're valuable. When you really down deep believe that you have value, your veteran will see that you're valuable. They probably already do. They just don't know how to tell you. And you know how I know you're valuable to your veteran? Because you're here. Because you're here. Because you're making him and you a priority. Because you're here. It is about us. You can't be good for anybody else if you're not good for yourself first. So when people say it's all about the veteran, they're wrong. It's about us first. And then it can be about the veteran. Take care of you first. When you do, other things will start to fall in place. And we're going to talk about this a lot more the rest of this week. We have 3 more days of this. We're also going to talk about it in boot camp tonight. That is at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. It is on our website, lovingmyveteran.com. Click on the community tab, scroll down, you'll find boot camp, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Hit the little link, it'll take you right in. We do that for about an hour, hour and a half every Tuesday night. It is a great support group and education all in one, so don't miss that. Tomorrow we have coffee and conversation right after this. That'll be at 10 o'clock tomorrow, so we don't want to miss that either. So y'all, believe in yourselves today. Know your value today. Know your worth today. Start knowing and learning that you're valuable. Tune everything else out of your head other than your own voice that says, I matter and I'm worthy. And your life will change. And I'm going to get off of here. And I just want everybody to have a blessed day. I'm Stacy. This has been Walking in My Shoes. We're loving my veteran. I love mine today, every day, and always. Y'all have a blessed one.